Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This video is going to focus on our top 5 tips for everyday improvement to your Excel sheet. So it's not in any particular order, and I'm sure we'll do another video to capture more of our top tips that you can use in Excel, but these are the top 5 that first came to mind that we apply every day to our worksheets to either make them more visually appealing or just quick shortcuts that we're using all the time as sort of second nature, and we thought we'd share with you for you to start using if you're not already. So in no particular order, the first one we find we use the most is using the control and the arrow buttons to quickly direct our cursor to the end, start, or any position required within data. So by that what we mean is if you were to start on the blank sheet like we are here, and we're in cell reference A1, currently we have no data. So if we had to hold down the control button on our keyboard and push down, you would see that it'll go straight to the end of that worksheet, so right at the bottom there. Likewise, if you push the arrow up, it'll go right back to the top position. And you can do the same as well with going right. You can see it going to the last column, and left to go back to that same position. So that's great for navigating around if there's no data. But if we add in some test data, so we go, let's do test, and then we'll go, let's copy that down to row 10, and we'll copy that out also just to column G. So now the power of using that control and using the arrows means that if you hold down control and do down, it will go to the end of the data set rather than the end of the complete sheet. This is particularly useful when you've got a lot of data and you're needing to navigate around the sheet to find out either the last position or the last row the data is in so that you can add more information, or if you're needing to go to the last column to add an additional column, or just generally navigate around the sheet. So in that again is just hold down the control button and then use your arrows to direct the direction in which you wish to go to that last piece of information. Taking that one piece further, what we can also then do is include the shift button. So if we hold down control, shift, and now do an arrow, you can see that we'll actually be able to make a selection of all that data between those 2 points. This is particularly useful when copying data, or if you're defining a range such as a table, or if you're doing and setting a pivot table. So the best of this is if control shift and you can go straight to the row, and then you could then copy that information if required. Or the even powerful part you can do as well is you can go control shift, you can go to the right to go to the last column of your data, and then having made that selection you can then also push down and it will then also go to the last row, enabling you to select all the information that you require. So that's a very powerful and good one to use. Moving that, well, that actually goes quite nicely into this next part, is the next one is when we're copying and pasting. So rather than right clicking, copy, or going up into our ribbon to copy, the quickest way to do so is just to hold down control and hit C. So by doing that, doing control and C, you can see you've now got the dotted line around that data you have there. So this information is now being copied to the clipboard. If you now want to paste that information, so I'll just move to column I, and then to paste that information, all you need to do is then do Control and V. So obviously with copying, you're doing Control C, what's easy to remember, because obviously C for copy. But when you're pasting, obviously don't get confused and want to do Control P, it's actually Control V to paste that information. And you can see that information has now been pasted into column I, or from column I through to column O, and that just makes this a lot quicker when you're doing copy and paste, especially if you're going between multiple worksheets or workbooks. Obviously, once you get into the routine of just doing that shortcut on the keyboard makes it a lot quicker. So the next one we have, and let's just delete this paste that I've just done here. Perfect. So what we've got now as well is the other tip we have is to hide grid lines. So often you don't really need to worry maybe about this, especially if you're just working in your spreadsheet. But often what's really nice to do is just to hide grid lines that you see here. So obviously these grey lines separating or identifying each cell reference. So what you can do is if you go into your View tab in the ribbon, you see you have these various tick marks, of which one is grid lines. If you untick that, you can see that grid lines are now being removed from our workbook. So this is particularly useful if you are if you're needing to supply someone with an actual workbook and you just want to make it a bit tidier, or maybe tidy up the presentation, or if you are actually doing your presentation within Excel and you've got a dashboard in here. Again, getting rid of the grid lines can be a simple little effective piece that you do, or just gives it a bit more professional look. So that's hiding grid lines. We've also got freeze and panes. So this is particularly useful again when you're working with data. Always use this on a daily basis, and one of the first things we do when we get data is to freeze panes, just so it's easier to navigate. So what we're able to do here is if we then go back into our review tab, you can see we have a few options. We've got freeze panes, freeze top row, and freeze first column. So to freeze top row, you can be anywhere in your workbook, but the first row must be visible, so you can see row number 1. To freeze the top row, all you need to do is go freeze row or freeze top row, and then what happens as you scroll through your workbook, you can see that row number 1 is always going to be fixed in that position, so it'll always stay there. Particularly useful if you obviously got a lot of data and you want to remember what the column header is for data as you scroll through it. So in order to get rid of that, all you need to do is to do unfreeze panes. The next one we have is freeze first column. So again, make sure that first column you want is visible on the screen, and then just hit freeze first column, and then this time as you scroll to the right of your data, you'll see that first column has been retained. But obviously if you were to scroll down, it's not really, it's all it's going to still do is keep that column there. And again, to remove that, we unfreeze panes. And we also have the power to combine both of those together. So if we wanted to freeze, say, the first row and the first column, we can just ignore these other two options and just go the freeze panes button. And what that will do, it will fix based on the top left hand corner of your cell selected, and it will freeze the first row above that, or the row above that, and the column to the left of it. So as you can see, we can now scroll down through our data, and whatever way we go, the header or row number 1 is always going to be fixed in position, and so is that first column. And this works wherever you select it. So if we wanted to start here, maybe in column C, so we had the first 2 columns, then again we can do that as well. And we could also freeze the first couple of rows if we wanted to as well. And the last one we have as well is autofill. So let's say we let's put in some numbers here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then let's do this the other way around. Let's go 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we could just get rid of some of this, just have a bit of a tidy up again. And let's do a sum in here, and this, you don't really probably need to change all this, but I just feel it's a lot nicer just to update the screen just so we can see what we're actually looking at. So I've just quickly updated that sheet to now give us some numbers. So we've got number 1 and number 2, so column A and column B, and we've also got some random numbers that we've put in there as well. And in column C, let's just do a really simple sum to add those two numbers together. So column A add column B, and we can see what that result is there. So we just now added this formula in, and we want to apply it to all those other rows up to row 10. So rather than entering that formula multiple times, and this might be a tip you've actually seen us do a few times in the videos, you'll see what we have is in the bottom right hand corner there is that square, and if you hover over it you can see that your cursor changed to a black crosshair. This is the autofill option, so we can either click and drag the number of rows that we want to go, or we can even just double tap that and it will populate that information all the way through to the last row of data. So you can, when you're using this, you can either pull it vertically or horizontally, but you have to do one at a time. You can't pull it both ways. So you first need to do your rows, and then if it was applicable you could then pull to the right hand side if you wanted to fill that way as well. So this works really well with obviously with formulas. If you were to have a static number in here, so like the number 1, you could also use this fill to pull that down, and it will obviously copy that information down as well. Alternatively, if you want to have a running total, so not running total, but you wanted to have your numbers move up in increments, if you type in 1 then 2, so that, and then select both of those pieces of information so that Excel can understand what the difference is between those and identify a pattern, and now drag that down, you can see it will identify that there is a +1, should we say, change between the two numbers, and it will therefore apply that change and allow you to easily and quickly populate a 1 to 9 as we've done that example there. So there's some really quick tips we've just gone through there, and these are the tips that we apply every day, whether it's to very basic stuff or all the way through to complex formulas and other data that we're trying to populate. These save us a great deal of time, and we hope they will save you a great deal of time as well if you're not using them at the moment. Maybe you're familiar with some of those already, maybe there's some that you weren't, but either way, hopefully that served as a good introduction or refresh to remind you of these tips that you can be using in Excel to save you time. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please do give the video a like. It'll be greatly appreciated and it really does help us out. If you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We've got videos coming out on a regular basis, so hit that bell notification button to make sure that you don't miss any of those new videos that come out. Links in description for our social media, and as always, if you have any questions, please get in contact or drop us a comment below this video. Thank you very much, and we shall see you in the next video.